Hey folks, today I'm going to be showing you how to make sweet buttery cornbread, and this is the best. I said I make the best cornbread in the whole wide world. Don't nobody make cornbread the way Philly Boy J do. Nobody. Don't nobody make cornbread the way I do. So let's first talk about the ingredients that you're going to need. We're going to be combining our dry ingredients first. And what you're going to need is some cornmeal, some flour, some baking powder, some sugar, and some salt. Here, you're going to be using 1 cup of sugar. You're going to need 1 cup of sugar. Okay, if you like very sweet cornbread, you can use more sugar than just 1 cup. Maybe 1 cup and 1/4 cups of sugar. We're going to be using some cornmeal, and you're going to use 1.5 cups of cornmeal. 1.5 cups of cornmeal. All right, and we're only going to use a small amount of all-purpose flour. I know it looks like a lot right there, but you're only going to be using just 1/2 cup of flour. And there we have some baking powder. We're only going to be using 1 teaspoon. I know older folks and old school, they like to use 2 tablespoons, but you only need 1 teaspoon of baking powder, so only use 1 teaspoon. And you're also going to be using just 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so let's talk about our liquid ingredients now. The liquid ingredients that you're going to need, you're going to be using 2 eggs. 2 eggs. You're going to need 1 stick of butter or margarine. Just 1 stick. That's all you need. And we're going to be melting that too. Okay. We're going to melt that in the microwave. You're going to use 2/3 cups of vegetable oil. Make sure it's brand new. Okay. Don't use no old chicken grease, no oil from the chicken that you fried last night. Make sure it's brand new vegetable oil. You're going to be using 2/3 of that. Okay. We're also going to be using some honey. Now I know you folks are looking at me like, what does he mean by honey and cornbread? But you're going to need 3 tablespoons, 3 to 3.5 tablespoons of honey. Okay. I know it sounds scary, and you know, if you're not used to using it, it's a scary idea, but yeah. You're also going to be using 1 cup to 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk. Buttermilk, not regular milk, buttermilk. Okay. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to combine our dry ingredients. You're going to get you a really big bowl. Okay. Make sure it's a nice big bowl so everything don't splash. You don't want to splash everything around, all the ingredients on you. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to add our 1.5 cups of cornmeal. So make sure you add first your 1.5 cups of cornmeal. You're then going to add your 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. Okay, so 1.5 cups of cornmeal, 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, and that's the way it should look, like that. Those are the ingredients that we added so far. And then you're going to add your 1 cup of white sugar. Like I said, you can use 1 1/4 cups if you like it to be really sweet, but just so that it's not too sweet, you're only going to add 1 1/4 cups. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to get a teaspoon. Okay, you're only going to use a teaspoon of salt, not a lot of salt. Okay, you don't want this to be salty. That just enhances the flavor and the taste. All right. And you're also going to use 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Use a strong 1 teaspoon, not a little teeny 1 teaspoon. Use a strong 1 teaspoon. Okay. So we're going to use 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Okay. That helps it bake better. All right. And then what we're going to do is, of course, we're going to combine all of our dry ingredients by giving it a nice stir. You want to make sure that you blend all of this in together really well. So what you're going to do is you're going to blend this all in. Okay, and then you're going to, after you blend it together, you're going to set it aside, and we're going to focus on our liquid ingredients. So what you're going to do is you're going to get that 1 stick of butter. We're actually going to need a little more butter for later, but we're going to be melting this 1 stick of butter, okay, and we're going to add this to the microwave, and we're going to just heat it up for a little while on 1 minute, maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds, but 1 minute should be enough. Okay, so melt your margarine, put that in the microwave. Have my microwave here, and we're going to melt that butter. You can use margarine or butter. It's all vegetable oil when you really think about it. Okay, and we're going to let that heat up and melt for a minute. That's going to melt down, and now that it's melted, we're going to just sit that aside, because you don't want to add that to the batter while it's still very hot. We want to let that cool off until it gets to room temperature, and we're going to take our 2 large eggs, and we're going to beat that up, and you're going to beat these eggs up for about a full minute. Make sure that they're well blended. Keep beating them up, keep beating them up, keep beating them up, keep beating them up. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to get a big bowl, and we're going to combine all of these liquid ingredients, our eggs, our butter, our honey, our vegetable oil, our buttermilk, okay? And our butter should be a little cooler now. But what you're going to do first is we're going to add the buttermilk first. Okay, we're going to add the buttermilk first. So make sure you add the buttermilk first. Don't add the other ingredients first. Add the buttermilk first. I find that when I add the buttermilk first, everything just blends together better. That's like the base liquid, the main liquid that we're using. So add your 1 cup of buttermilk. Also, I wanted to tell you, you can use 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk if when you mix it later you find that it's too thick. Okay, you're going to add our 2 beaten up eggs. We beat those eggs up, and now we're going to add our melted butter to the liquids. Want to add the melted butter, and that's going to give it a nice buttery taste. That's what's going to allow your cornbread to come out nice and buttery. Okay, now the vegetable oil, the 2/3 of vegetable oil that we're using, that's going to basically make your cornbread very moist. If you always wonder why my cornbread come out so dry, that's because you didn't add enough, you didn't add any vegetable oil. And then here we have our 3 tablespoons of honey. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of honey. Okay, that's going to give it that flavor, okay, that hidden flavor. When you taste cornbread and it tastes really, really good, and you're like, what did they put in this? It just got this nice sweet flavor, and I can't quite pinpoint what it is, can't put my finger on it. It's honey. Okay, that gives it a nice sweet taste, and it just adds more flavor to the cornbread. And of course you want to give that a nice little blend that all together, and make sure that you stir this for at least a good 2 minutes, guys, because you have to make sure that that honey is beat up really well. Honey is really, really thick, so you have to kind of loosen it up and stir that for at least a good 2 minutes. I would recommend that you stir for 2 minutes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to combine our dry and our liquid ingredients. Here's the dry ingredients that we previously combined. We're going to add the liquid ingredients to it. If after you blend this together is not as thick as you would want it to be, the batter don't necessarily have to be really, really thick, but you don't want it to be really, really wet either. So sometimes you find that you may need to add a little more of something. If you do add any more of anything, make sure that you add more cornmeal, not more flour. We don't want this to come out looking like cake. And if you add more flour, it's going to come out looking like cake. Okay? So make sure that if you want to add anything, make sure you add more cornmeal if it's not as thick as you would like it. I like mine's a little loose, because the looser it is, the more moist the cornmeal is going to come out. So it's kind of medium loose thick, you know what I mean? It's not too loose and it's not too thick there. I'm going to get a baking pan. I like to get a small baking pan. I'm not making a lot of cornbread here, and you don't have to do this. I actually recommend that you don't do this unless you want the ends of your cornbread to be dark looking. I like the ends of my cornbread to be a little dark. If you don't like that, don't add any butter to the bottom and the sides of the baking pan. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to add that cornmeal batter. It's cornmeal now. It's just loose cornmeal. It's going to be cornbread. It's not cornbread yet, folks. Okay. And you can actually give it like a little taste test. Like, if you're just making it for yourself, like, stick your finger in it. Or if you're making it for guests, of course, you don't want to do that. You just want to maybe put your spoon in it or whatever. But you're going to preheat your oven. Make sure your oven preheats on 350 degrees first for 10 minutes. Let your oven preheat for 350 degrees first on 10 minutes. Then add this, place this in the oven, okay? And you know when it's done. Usually take about 30 minutes, no more, but you know when it's done when you stick a fork in it and it comes out clean, okay? And here we go, folks. This is the way our cornbread look. It looks absolutely beautiful. The color is really even. It's nice and yellow and fluffy and really, really moist. It came out really, really good. The cornbread tastes really good as well. But what you're going to do is you're going to melt about 3/4 or a half a stick of butter, and you're going to pour that over the cornbread just to make sure that is moist and has a little more buttery taste. Sometimes when you put it inside of the baking pan, the butter can kind of dry out a bit. So just to make sure that it's nice and buttery, you add about another 3/4 or a half a stick of butter to the cornbread, and just let it sit for a while so it stiffens up. We're going to plate this, and yeah, folks, that's how you make cornbread. And I said this is the best. This is the best, folks, cornbread that you're ever going to taste in your life. Look at that cornbread. Look how yellow it is. Look how pretty it is. Look how beautiful it is. Look at that. It's so soft and moist. Look at that. Nice and buttery. It's nice and sweet. Just try this recipe out, folks. Like I always tell you guys, you don't know if it's good unless you try it. You gotta try it, because anything can look good, but do it taste good? You won't know until you try it. Make sure you follow my instructions. Do not take upon yourself and do things the way you want to do it. Follow the instructions exactly the way I'm asking you to, and you would taste and see that it tastes just as good as it tastes for me. Okay, folks? So there you have it, cornbread. It's nice and buttery and sweet, and it's really moist and soft. It's almost like a cake. Look at that. Almost like a cake almost. Look how soft it is on the inside. But yes, folks, I just want to make sure that you add the right ingredients and make sure that you add the right measurements, most importantly. And that's the back. Got a little brown because I buttered the sides, all right? You don't want your sides brown like that, then don't put no butter in your baking pan, as I told you guys earlier. But that's it, folks. That's pretty much it. That's the cornbread, sweet, buttery, moist cornbread. I hope you guys enjoy it. Peace.